Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take those sources you're curious about, unpack them, and really get to the core knowledge, without you having to sift through everything.
Yeah, finding those aha moments quickly. That's the goal.
Exactly. And today we've got a really interesting mix you sent over. There's an advanced reader copy review from Reddit, and also the PDF of the actual book, Katabasis, by R.F. Kuang.
It's a great combination. A novel that blends a very academic setting, Cambridge no less, with a pretty wild supernatural journey.
Totally. So our mission today is to dig into these, see what makes the story tick. It centers on Alice Law, a postgraduate student.
Right, at Cambridge.
And she decides, very logically it seems, that she needs to pop down to hell to retrieve her dead professor's soul.
As you do.
Right. And it sounds like it's not your standard trip to the underworld. We're expecting some dark humor, maybe some surprises.
Definitely. The initial setup is pretty unique. Alice's method isn't some ancient rite. It's called analytic magic.
Okay, what's that involve?
Well, the sources describe it as using these incredibly precise pentagrams combined with linguistic trickery.
Linguistic.
Yeah. The review even mentions specifics like Sue's basic transportative pentagram with Satia's modifications. And there's talk of Ramanujan's summation and the Casimir effect. It's very technical sounding.
Wow. So like physics meets the occult.
Sort of. It's framed as a very rigorous, almost scientific way to, travel between dimensions.
Okay, but then things get a bit messy with Peter Murdoch showing up.
Ah, yes. Peter, the classmate. He just appeared.
Yeah, it seems like he thinks hell might be lonely, so he offers to bring snacks, basically.
Pretty much. You get the feeling Alice would maybe rather go it alone. She seems pretty self-reliant.
Very. The excerpt suggests she's worried he'll either criticize her methods or, try to steal the credit if it works.
Which maybe says something about academia, that competitive edge.
Yeah.
And maybe she's just a bit awkward.
Could be. And the whole reason this rescue mission is needed, Professor Grime, what happened there?
Oh, that was dramatic. He apparently tried the same kind of transport himself.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well. Big explosion in the lab. Fatal.
Yikes. Okay. And the university's reaction sounds almost darkly funny.
Yeah. Mandatory safety workshops run by Oxford folks who sound a bit smug.
Of course.
His seminar gets reassigned to someone who knows less than the students, apparently. And the local papers give him a sort of bland send-off.
It paints this picture of the institution just wanting to smooth things over, not really about the loss.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Alice is left dealing with the fallout and, cooking up this rather ambitious plan.
Which leads us to that Reddit review you mentioned. What was the vibe there?
Well, there's definitely excitement for a new Kuang book, but also some baggage, it seems.
Baggage.
Some comments brought up friction within the subreddit itself, maybe related to the author. And one reviewer specifically mentioned feeling that Kuang's previous book, Babel, was maybe a bit heavy-handed with its anti-colonial themes. Called it a rhetorical brick to the face, I think was the quote. Though they did admit the magic system was clever.
So people are coming into Katabasis with some pre-existing thoughts, maybe strong and Zari.
In that way, yeah.
Okay, so back to Alice. She draws her fancy pentagram, does the linguistic trickery, and boom, interdimensional travel.
Pretty much. The excerpt captures this moment of pure elation, like, it worked. It actually worked. Which, after all that fiddly work with chalk.
Chalk.
Yeah. And apparently pulverized sea creature bits that's mentioned as part of the fuel for this analytic magic.
Okay, wow. Sea creatures, got it.
But the core idea behind how it works is fascinating. The book suggests reality's fundamental laws are kind of fragile.
Fragile how?
Like they could be temporarily bent or suspended using this linguistic trickery, finding loopholes in the fabric of reality almost.
So words can literally change the world for a moment.
That seems to be the idea. You set up these premises linguistically that force reality to behave differently just for a bit.
Yeah.
The chalk helps ground it, drawing on some kind of primal energy.
Why? And hell itself, not fire and brimstone, you said.
Not at first. It's described more like rolling sand dunes under this constant dusk and eternal twilight.
Okay, atmospheric.
But then it gets weirder. They look up.
Yeah.
And there's this mirror image of Cambridge just hanging in the sky, translucent, upside down.
Whoa. Okay, that's a striking visual. Immediately suggests a connection, right? A reflection.
Exactly. And it's the perfect setting for who they meet next, the shades.
The dead people.
The dead Cambridge people, specifically. And they're not being tortured with pitchforks or anything.
What are they doing?
They're in this sort of library setting, still completely obsessed with their research.
Seriously. Even in hell.
Apparently. There's this constant anxiety, though. Fear of truly fading away, of forgetting everything that's tied to this concept of the leap. A general unease hangs over them.
It's almost like a satire of academic pressure following you into the afterlife.
It really feels that way. Bleakly funny. These scholars still worried about citations in hell.
And one shade stands out.
Yeah, George Edward Moore. He's more lucid than others, offers them a bit of a tour.
Nice of him.
While mostly just slagging off continental philosophers and anyone else he disapproved of for, like, petty academic sins.
Huh. The gossip continues.
It seems so. And this library, specifically called the Court of Pride.
Pride, okay.
And the book touches on different philosophical takes on pride. Augustine, Pope Gregory, Plato, Confucius, often boiling down to this idea of a mismatch.
A mismatch.
Between like the name and the thing. Or maybe just an overinflated sense of self-importance. It really makes you think about what pride even is across different value systems.
And how that might manifest in this very specific Cambridge-centric hell. Okay, so the journey isn't smooth, I take it.
Far from it. They hit this sheer vertical climb out of nowhere. And Peter, it turns out, is terrified of height. Really highlights their different personality. Alice is all calm, problem-solving. Peter's freaking out.
A nice character moment.
Yeah. And then after all that effort climbing, they get to the top and it's just a flat, empty field.
So the landscape makes...
None at all. Completely unpredictable. And the little details make it feel real in a weird way. The sand, apparently, is incredibly irritating, gets everywhere.
Fun.
And they have lumbus bread, but no alcohol to dissolve it properly.
Yeah.
Just these grounded, mundane annoyances in this totally bizarre place.
Right. But they start relying on each other more.
Yeah, you see that develop. Moments of vulnerability, but also arguments. So they even argue about the fundamental geometry of hell.
Of course they do. What are the options?
Peter thinks it's hyperbolic space. Alice leans towards Chertonic flux, whatever that is.
Academic debates continue. Lovely.
And just when they think they're getting somewhere, this wall appeared, made of bone, shifting, translucent bone.
Okay, creepy.
And it really drives home the feeling that there's no easy way out. You can't go around, you have to go through.
A very literal barrier.
Which ties into this bigger idea the book explores. Hell is a mirror.
Mirroring what?
Mirroring the living world, its structures, its rules, its moral assumption. The book draws parallels to Dante, Buddhist hells, Greek and Mesopotamian afterlives.
Places populated by things familiar to the dead.
Exactly. Which helps explain why Professor Grimes's hell is so specifically Cambridge. It's reflecting his world, his anxieties.
Makes sense. So what other obstacles do they face? Sounds like it gets weirder.
Oh, yeah. There's the Weaver girl.
Okay.
They meet her at a crossing point between desire and greed, apparently. She tells them this sad story about her lover, the cowherd, being lost to reincarnation.
Oh, wow.
And she gives them a test, a choice of apples. Red means they stay together. Green means they go alone. It's framed like a classic prisoner's dilemma.
Adding a philosophical puzzle to the mix.
Definitely. And Alice herself starts experiencing weird things, fragmented memories, sensory overload.
A side effect of the magic, or just hell.
Could be either, or both. The boundaries of perception seem really blurry there. And then there's Peter.
What about him?
He reveals a rather disturbing errand. Professor Grimes asked him to run before he died.
Which was?
Procure a human colon.
Excuse me, a human colon for what?
Exactly. It raises some serious questions about what kind of research Grimes was actually doing.
Yeah.
Very unsettling.
Understatement. Wow, okay.
And amid all this, there's a reminder about the rules of their magic, a key axiom.
What's that?
You can't deliberately use analytic magic to kill yourself. You can only manage it by accident, like Grimes did.
Ah, so there are limits, built-in safety features, sort of.
Sort of. And it shows Alice is aware of these limitations, even if things get more dangerous. We also get more insight into her relationship with Grimes.
Complicated, I'm guessing.
Very. He used to compare her and Peter, made her feel inadequate. But he also initially encouraged her unique way of thinking, her particular mental signature.
So mixed messages.
Big time. Contrasting sharply with maybe later behavior, rumors about her, it suggests a really fraught, maybe even damaging mentor relationship.
Okay, so the danger keeps ramping up.
Definitely. They have to cross a bridge made of petrified shades.
Petrified shades, like people turn to stone.
Seems like it. And they're moaning. It creates this horrible atmosphere.
Grim.
And they actually see one shade just shove another one off the bridge into the Lethe. Just cold. Shows the real lack of compassion in parts of this hell.
That's dark. Who else do they meet?
Elspeth. She's the fairy woman on the river Nerath.
Another character with a story.
Oh, yeah? Turns out she was also a former student of Grimes, but she was completely erased from Cambridge, ostracized, records wiped.
Why? What?
It's mysterious. But she knows things. She knows about these figures called the Crypt Cakes,
The crypt case.
described as visual artists, illusionists, who practice a really unconventional kind of magic. Elspeth seems to have a much deeper, maybe darker handle on how hell actually works.
And she warns them.
Yeah, specifically about the Lethe again. It says in its raw form, unfiltered, it's utterly destructive, not just memory wiping for rebirth.
Okay, good to know.
But then she drops the real bombshell, chalk, the foundation of their analytic magic.
Yeah.
Doesn't work in hell, it's just chalk, inert.
Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. It basically leaves them defenseless.
Pretty much strips away their main tool. Yeah. Major setback. And there's mention here of true contradictions too, dialetheia.
Things being true and false at the same time.
Exactly. So just the fundamental logic of this place is just different, maybe broken.
Which must make things incredibly difficult.
Oh, well.
And sets up the climax.
It really does. Because the Crypt Keys, these illusionist magicians Elspeth mentioned, they set a trap.
Using illusions.
Yeah, reality-bending illusions. Alice gets caught, desperate struggle to break free, confront them.
And Peter.
This is where Peter makes this incredible sacrifice. He uses one of those true contradictions, a paradoxical statement.
Okay.
Combined with his own blood somehow to break the Crypt Keys' magic. It's a huge, selfless act.
Wow, but it costs him.
It seems so. Which leads Alice to confront King Yama, the ruler of this particular hell.
To do what?
Demand a trade, an exchange, to bring Peter back. It shows how much she's changed, how determined she's become.
And does it work? Does she get him back?
Amazingly, yes. Peter returns, pulled back through a tear in reality.
But there's always a but.
He comes back with scars indicating he actually died. A permanent mark of what happened, the price paid.
Heavy. So the aftermath must be intense.
Yeah. Peter's obviously confused, doesn't remember dying. Alice has to try and explain this exchange she made with Yama.
Awkward conversation.
You'd think. And their whole future at Cambridge is completely up in the air now.
Can they even go back after all that?
Who knows? But there's this darkly funny suggestion that maybe they could write their dissertation about it.
About their trip to hell. Oh, that's peak academia right there.
Isn't it? And on a more personal note, Alice finally seems to realize she has feelings for Peter. Their relationship has clearly been forged and transformed by everything they went through.
A lot to process. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive on Katabasis, what are the big takeaways?
Well, I think first is just the sheer originality of this hell. It's not just fire, it's bureaucracy, it's academia. It reflects our own anxieties back at us.
Yeah, that Cambridge in the sky image really sticks. And the idea that even rigorous systems like their analytic magic have limits when facing the truly unknown.
Absolutely. And the core of it, really, seems to be about relationships under pressure. Alice and Peter's connection, how it evolves, how the lines blur between life, death, memory, even identity.
It feels very fluid.
Definitely. And just so many memorable bits, right? The undergrads still studying in hell, the Pride Library, those bone things.
The Weaver Girl's dilemma, the creepy Crypt Keys, Peter's sacrifice.
Yeah. It mixes fantasy, philosophy, that specific dark humor. It sounds really compelling.
It really does. A world that probably stays with you after you read it. So maybe a final thought for you listening. Consider what it means if reality's rules can be bent. If the afterlife mirrors our world, our worries so closely. And maybe, just maybe, if real human connection turns out to be the most powerful, unexpected kind of magic there is. What parts of your own life, your own moral universe would show up reflected in a place like that? It really pushes you to think about belief, truth, and where reality's edges might actually lie, based on what we've seen in these sources.
That's a great set of questions to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Hope it gave you a good look into this fascinating story.